Welcome to another episode of CM Director Japan. I'd like to introduce my guest today, Simon Rowe. He's a Japan-based storyteller and writer based in Himeji, Japan. Welcome, Simon.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, David.
No problem. No problem. Glad to see you. So, Simon, let's get right into it. You're a pretty well-known character here in the Japan-based creative community. So how would you describe yourself or your job to someone who doesn't know you?
Basically, I teach creative writing and writing skills to English language learners at university level. And when I'm not doing that, I'm writing like a bat out of hell, and that keeps me pretty busy. Nice.
So let's start from the beginning. What's your background?
Well, that's a hell of a long story. Let me give you the short version. I'm a writer and a teacher. The writing came first, and then the teaching followed. And so about 30 years ago, I almost didn't finish university in Melbourne, Australia, but I went out and got a different kind of education, which was traveling around the world. And that's where the writing began. Note-taking, writing short stories for travel magazines and newspapers. And that was just a self-perpetuating existence for about 15 years. So that's basically my background in writing. Things have changed a little since then, but if you're going to be a writer, you can't do it full time. You need a real job. I hear you. That's why I teach at university.
Great. So, Simon, when did you move to Japan?
That was 1997. So yeah, about 23 years ago. This is the longest overseas trip I've ever taken in my life.
I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Got a few years in myself.
Yep. Well, we're old timers.
All right. So before you came to Japan, did you have any particular stereotypes or image of Japan, as we all do, maybe?
Well, no. Japan to me seemed and still does seem to be a very mysterious place. So I really came here with an empty mind or an open mind, and that has been the best mindset for learning about the culture and the history, the people, and all of that. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I understand what you mean. I came here in 2004 with a very open mind, and I've been loving it ever since. So yeah, great place for sure. Any surprises when you first moved to Japan?
I think the biggest surprise was the contrast between the ancient and the modern. You know, to see a woman in kimono step off the Shinkansen with a cell phone pressed to her ear. So that image really summed it up for me. You know, the two worlds just perfectly balanced.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, some small things surprised me, like I couldn't use a Visa card downtown in the city I live in. There were some other things. Oh yeah, here's another crazy thing. I spent a lot of time traveling in Southeast Asia, and I very rarely saw women publicly drinking alcohol in Southeast Asia. But when I came to Japan, I remember the night walking around Osaka and seeing all these people having a great time in bars and restaurants and cafes, and large groups of women, obviously co-workers or friends, just having a great time with the biggest glasses of beer I've ever seen in my
Right.
life.
Osaka does not hold back.
Yeah, so I thought that was a kind of a really nice surprise.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. So Simon, how long did it take for you to understand like Japanese culture and people and start to begin to like feel comfortable?
It didn't take that long, mainly because I came here to investigate Japanese culture, technology, food, things like festivals, travel destinations, and
That
I
was
did
your
that.
purpose in the beginning. So you were very like ready for it and open-minded, yeah?
Yeah, so when you're hungry for knowledge, you're not going to get too freaked out about things that are really, really different, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for things that are, amaze you and stimulate you, so you can put that into words and hopefully communicate it to other people.
So Simon, where did you get your writing experience? You said before that you were traveling the world and you just started note taking. So basically just self-taught, or did the things you used in university help as well?
Well, I studied public relations and French language at university, and to be honest, neither of those things have had a great bearing on my writing. I think that really comes from going out there and just writing what you see, what you feel, what you smell, hear. Reading a lot, writing a lot, just writing every day. And through all of those years of practice and refinement, you actually become good at doing that kind of thing. You become a good writer. And I would say, to answer your question, I just really have taught myself.
Great. Do you work alone, Simon, or do you have like a team?
I've got a big room full of monkeys out the back, and they're all chained to typewriters. So I just throw them the directive and leave them to it. But to be honest, it's like traveling. Some people travel in big groups because they feel more comfortable and protected and supported. But I prefer to go it alone. I can move at my own speed.
Exactly.
And I can call the shots and do whatever I want. So as a writer, I feel ultimate freedom lies in just being your own boss.
Right, right. So what would you say in terms of like writing? What are some challenges of publishing in Japan?
In the current situation, challenges include having your voice heard above the millions of other people who are writing out there, whether it be posting on social media or writing content for websites, or even just trying to get their story told through self-publishing. You're competing against all of those people.
Exactly, because now they always say like anybody can be a writer now. Pick up a pen and get started and open a blog and start writing. So the access is there now, but there also must be a lot of noise now, right? With everybody having that access.
Yeah, that's right. That's the biggest challenge, is to get your work out there, get your stories read, because without readers, the words don't really mean anything.
Exactly. So how would you say like you balance your personal projects or your passion projects with your work projects, or is there a difference?
Oh, I think one informs the other a lot, and both things work very well together. So, for example, I love sea kayaking, and every year I spend time in the Japan Sea and the Seto Inland Sea. So that's a passion of mine, but it also it gives me a chance to go to a deserted island and camp for a couple of nights and to think about what I'm writing and get new ideas down. With my friends, it's a great chance to tell stories, and that's what writing is. It's storytelling. So you can't beat sitting around a fire on a beach on a deserted island, drinking cheap Australian wine and telling stories that just go on into the night.
Exactly. Great, great. So what kind of writing projects do you like take on? And do you take on any screenwriting, which is what this podcast is kind of about, film projects, etc.?
Yeah, well, okay. All those things just come under the huge umbrella term of storytelling. So that's really my passion, and it extends to all different types of writing. So I used to write travel stories for many years. Then I turned to writing short fiction. So and then from the short fiction, I developed short movie scripts, and I've had some success with that. Also, radio plays, and these things have been they have been adapted from these short stories and these original ideas. So everything's kind of interconnected, and I find the different forms of writing, whether it's writing haiku or a radio play or a travel story, it's all about creating an image, a picture in the viewer or the reader's head. Right. And so I really enjoy doing that through screenplay writing, creating that multi-dimensional situation in which the story is told.
Great. Yeah, I've experienced a little bit of screenwriting myself. It's not easy, but it's fun. It's fun, definitely.
Life.
Yeah. So Simon, what would you say like the difference between or actually no, well, let's start with this question first. How has the publishing scene in Japan changed over the years? Or Japan or online or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, okay. The biggest change is that everything is just it's online and it's here one day and gone the next. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, your stories were coming out in print, in magazines, and magazines and newspapers, they hang around. That's right. But these days the turnover is so high. It's difficult to it's kind of difficult to produce meaningful work for that kind of medium. For example, social media and the websites,
exactly,
and so on. But so I find that writing a story is going to hang around, whether it hangs around in the reader's mind for days after, or it's something that you can access again and again.
Exactly. So Simon, back to the screenplay versus the novel idea. What is the difference between writing a novel versus a screenplay? Or do you ever like start with the screenplay first, or usually your screenplays are basically based on your short stories and novels, and then you adapt them into screenplays?
Well, it's easier for me to put the story down on paper in narrative form, as you would with a short story, and then take that structure, that story that you've spent all that time thinking about and have written down and edited, and then taking that story in its entirety and transferring it into a script form is not so difficult. There are things that that have to be adapted.
Yes, exactly. Like for example, like you know, when you read a novel, there's lots of internal dialogue in the character's head that maybe needs to be adapted, shown visually or something like that, right?
That's right. Yeah, so many elements have to be brought in, and that makes it both challenging and exciting.
Great. Have any of your screenplay projects made it on screen or into any film festivals?
Yes, back in 2013, I entered the Short Asian Screenplay Contest, the Asian Short Screenplay Contest, which was a global contest run out of the United States. So I adapted a story that I wrote in short story form called Goodnight Papa.
Yep.
It's a story of a taxi driver and a mysterious passenger that takes place on one night here in the city I live in, Himeji city. But I adapted it to an American setting, because the contest seemed to me more American centric.
Right.
Yeah, and Buddha smiled on me, and Michelle Yeoh was one of the judges. So I was fortunate enough to be a joint winner in that contest, and the prize was cash, and also to have that short screenplay produced. And yes, it goes under the title Goodnight Papa. It is it's on YouTube.
Okay, so I'll later on I'll put the links to that film on in the description.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great.
Right. Excellent. So that sounds like it was quite the experience.
Well, it would have been more of an experience if I'd gone over to California to direct it, but I didn't have any experience with directing. So
well, yeah, it's a big undertaking, so I can understand for sure. So do you have any advice for those who want to start writing novels or screenplays? Like if someone wants to pick up the pen, if they're interested in that and they have a lot of experiences that they want to transform into the written form.
Yeah, there's a couple of points. You need an idea before you start writing, and well, that sounds quite obvious, but a lot of people have trouble coming up with ideas. And where do you get ideas from? You get ideas from going out and living life and having an adventure and meeting people and
exactly
creating interesting experiences that in turn can be developed into stories in the fiction form. So I would advise everyone who wants to be a storyteller in the written form, to go out and create the story yourself.
Have some experiences.
Live the story.
Get on a plane or two, or go down the road, go up the mountain.
Oh, just get on a bicycle and chase the setting sun. Yeah.
Sounds good. So Simon, you seem to be a very chill person. So do you get stressed easily, and how do you manage your stress or stay motivated for writing? That's a big.
Oh, well, yeah, besides drinking lots of cheap Australian red wine, I spend time outdoors, walking, hiking in mountains, sea kayaking, basically just getting out into nature. That relieves a lot of stress, and I think it goes without saying. But the greatest source of stress here in Japan is really not having enough time to work on those projects and to get all those ideas out and into story form.
I know exactly how you feel. I feel the same way. Like I'm a person who's filled with ideas, and it actually gives me stress not being able to get those ideas out. And
That's right.
This podcast is it helps me get those ideas out through listening to guests like yourself and doing things like this.
It's a therapy session.
Yes. All right. So the publishing space keeps evolving, obviously. So what do you think of the emerging NFT metaverse market and the potential impact for writers or creators?
Well, putting your name on something is great, but if someone else is selling that creative work and taking a big cut, well, it's not so good, even though that is a fact of life. So the concept makes sense, and it sounds very interesting that you can control the sale or distribution of your creative work yourself, and to to take the lion's share of the profit, because you created that. Yeah, I like the idea of it. I don't really understand how how it works on a technical level, but I'm all for the artist being in control and paid for their hard work.
Great. So how would you say that Japan has changed you, Simon, over the years, if at all?
Well, it's made me taller. And this is no joke, but when I first arrived, I used to go to a little standing bar downtown, and there was this little old lady, and she used to, bring the bottles of beer to me, and then add up my bill by abacus. And every so often she would ask me, "Have you grown taller?" And I was 27 years old. I think I did grow a few centimeters, and that might have had something to do with the food or sleeping on a futon. I'm not sure.
That's true. True enough. All right. So as you develop as a writer, how have your writing goals changed? Yeah. And where do you hope to be in a year from now with your writing?
Well, if we go back 30 years, where pre-internet, you could make a nice amount of money as a freelance writer, especially a travel writer. There was a strong market for well-told travel stories and photographs, but that has changed. With the after the dot-com bubble. Yeah, there was a big transformation, and as we were talking about earlier, everyone's become a travel writer. So I kind of I made the transition from writing travel stories to transporting the reader through fiction. So it was a nice and smooth transition, leaving travel writing behind, but telling a story set in an exotic location, and creating an atmosphere and a setting where the reader could imagine these things, even if they hadn't visited the location, through smell and sound and taste and so on.
Right.
So for me, fiction represents a much more challenging, exciting, and enjoyable form of writing and publishing too.
Definitely. Same as the difference between documentary or narrative films. And for me, like, I think they both have a place, but at this moment in time, I'm very much interested in fiction narrative films for sure.
Yeah, great. World needs more stories.
Exactly. What projects are you working on right now, if you can say?
Well, I'm always working on something, but short stories are what I enjoy writing most. They're very challenging, but it's a project that you can begin and finish
Exactly.
in a much shorter time. A novel can drive you nuts. So and you'll be you'll just be stressing out and wearing yourself down and getting all depressed.
Trying to write the masterpiece.
Yeah, and trying, you know, for anyone out there who is interested in writing, I really recommend trying different forms of writing. You know, of course, screenplay writing and writing for radio, but things like writing poetry, you might have never imagined yourself doing that, and I certainly didn't, but I did, and it's quite fun.
Great. Well, where can people get in contact with you, Simon? Like social media channels, etc.
So I've got a website. It's called mightytales.net, and that is just a portal for people passing by to read a yarn, a tale or two.
Right. And yeah, so I would highly recommend. I've read some of Simon's short stories, and I just ordered his book recently. So I recommend everybody get it. I'll just show it here.
You ready? 1, 2, 3.
And Simon was lucky enough to I was lucky enough to have it signed. So thank you very much for that.
No problem, man.
So so I guess that's it. We'll end things there. Thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show, Simon. And yeah, so it's good to see you again. And yeah, so thanks so much.
That was a lot of fun, David. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, no problem.